Hello there, this is Anna Lalone from DrawnToTheTruthMinistries.com and Facebook page Robert and Anna Lalone, Lalonde. I wanted to share with you, have you ever been on a business trip, family vacation, flying out somewhere, and you end up in a situation of being the most important person where you actually have the flight, which the doors were supposed to be closed and they were supposed to be on the runway, but in fact, your name was the most important name that held up that plane from taking off. Yes, let me share this exciting adventure. So I flew from upstate New York, 3 flights down to Denver, Colorado. And when I was done with my trip, I did a 3-day training and workshop. On my way back, my adventure was very interesting. For the least, I ended up getting on the first plane in Denver, Colorado. I landed in Ohio. I think it was Cleveland. And when I landed, I got a bite because I had about 3 hours to wait. So I got a bite to eat. I sat and read a book. And when it was my time to go up to the gate, all of us lined up that were in that section that they called. And when they scanned my ticket ended up not scanning. They scanned it again. It didn't scan. They hand punched it in. It didn't punch in. They scanned it again. It didn't work again. Step aside, ma'am. Please go to the front counter. Up there. So I went to the front counter and I explained my situation, and they already radioed over to them what they had encountered. And I was a little puzzled why this wasn't scanning. I mean, I've done plenty of flights before and never had such an interesting situation. But when I inquired, I was so, ma'am, step away from the podium and sit down for a few minutes. I said, but ma'am, this is my time to enter, and I'm supposed to be on this plane, and my ticket says I'm supposed to be on this plane. And, ma'am, step aside, sit down for a few minutes. But ma'am, I'm supposed to be on this plane. What do you mean, step aside? I need to get on this plane. Ma'am, for one last time, step aside so we can get this plane off the ground. I have customers waiting behind you that are waiting to check in. But ma'am, I'm supposed to be on this plane. Ma'am, step aside now. I knew she meant firmly, so I nervously stepped aside and I waited very impatiently. All the passengers boarded. They did the final couple phone calls on the last few people, and my name was not on that list of missing people. There was open seats. They boarded a few extra people, and it wasn't me. I tried, but there was no way I could get on this plane. Nobody would listen to me. And in the end, all of a sudden I saw the attendant close the door, and I watched out the window as they pulled away. And I was just worried. I had no idea what to do. I had no idea what was going to happen next. I was exhausted. So then I turned around and I walked up, ma'am, I haven't called you. So I go back and I sit down and I wait. And I wait, and I wait. It felt like eternity. And I waited. And when the time came, Anna, Bodo, come to the front counter. Immediately. So I go to the front counter, and I'm a little shaken, a little flabbergasted, a little frustrated, a little bit of anger. And when I get up to the front counter, there they said, ma'am. I said, yes. How did you get to Ohio? I flew on a plane. How else did I get on there. I took my flight over from Denver. Ma'am, I'm going to ask you one more time. How did you come to this airport? I flew on a plane from Denver through your airlines. The one that says it on my ticket. Ma'am, I need you to be honest with me. How did you get to Denver or get to Ohio? Well, I told you. I told you I was flying in the plane. I was sitting in F. I was sitting on F. 6F. Ma'am, you were not registered on that plane. How did you get here? I was on that plane! Before I knew it, I had a flood of guards behind me. Yes, a flood of security guards. I became interrogated. I was interrogated up and down, question after question after question. How did I manage to get into the airlines? How did I get into that airlines, that airport from Denver? Or not even from Denver. How did I get in there? How did I come in? Because my name did not register on any airlines that I had come on. I was in big trouble. I didn't understand what was going on. I was in big trouble. And you talk about scared and peeing your pants. I was scared. So I realized I needed to collect my wits about myself, because if I emotionally did anything that was, I knew I would be just cutthroat. So I collected up myself and I said, one last time, I'm telling you, I flew on the Denver flight. I was in the seat 6F, and I described the people around me and what they were doing and what they were reading. And very much in detail. They checked the records, and sure enough, the name of the guy in the next seat next to me was the correct name. They didn't understand the circumstance. They didn't know how I got wiped out of the system. So they contacted the office in Denver, and Denver said that I was not on that flight. Well, lo and behold, they realized it must have been a situation that my ticket never scanned. And because my ticket never scanned in Denver, they canceled my flight pattern. And they were so apologetic. I became the most important person. And with being the most important person, I was escorted by multiple guards. I was escorted because they ended up having the one last flight out for the day to upstate New York from Ohio. And they didn't have any other way to get me back that night. So they rushed me. They held up the plane. I didn't realize they held up the plane until I got there. But when they held up the plane, they were waiting for me with big smiles. You can just imagine. And they were willing and ready to bow over and do anything for me, including allowing me to make a few phone calls to my folks to let them know that I was on a different flight number and a different flight pattern and my arrival time in for my person that was picking me up. And so I just wanted to make sure somebody knew where I was before the plane took off, and they made sure that I was comforted before this plane took off. And the plane took off, and I landed in upstate New York. You can say I almost kissed the ground. So Think about your next business trip or your next vacation and how mistakes can happen. But we have to keep our head cool and on and make sure that no matter what happens, that we can have the language toughness to keep calm, collected, and be straightforward and honest, yet but firm in our ways. You have a blessed night. This is Robert and Anna Lone from Facebook and DrawnToTheTruthMinistries.com. You may find us online, and it is so exciting to see you. Click the links, and we'll talk to you later. God bless. Have a great day.